let's go over now to the Mama University presentation for today, Wednesday, the 5th of April, 2023, on the Big G Galaxy Afiwi, the only de-brainwashing station. If you've just tuned in, you're locked in to Sister Shanice's show on the Big G Galaxy Afiwi.net. We have our special guest, Brother Mama from the Mama University, who is going to be coming to us today with another fantastic, blacktastic presentation. Also want to rise up, Empress Anoa was sending me a message there saying vortex. Yes, well, I was looking for the right word when I was talking about, all of those PowerPoints that are strategically positioned around the globe. And yeah, Dr. Abu rang in with the word that I was searching for. They're vortexes. Absolutely. There's so much, that we used to know that we no longer know, and we will no longer ever be able to tap into that knowledge for as long as our mind is being conditioned by these ones who are inferior to us as a people. Okay, so for today's program, our brother is going to firstly recap and draw some conclusions from the presentations that we've been having over recent strongs. Do Africans have any friends? So we've been discussing that quite extensively. Our brother's going to be drawing some conclusions now based on, the contributions that have been made on the show, but in particular also based on historical events which have proven without a shadow of the doubt whether or not we as Africans have any friends. And then secondly, all being well, we are going to be introducing a new topic for today, Afrocentrism education. An introduction to Afrocentrism education. Handing over the baton to Brother Mama.
Okay, thank you, Sister Shanice. Could I just make a little point there? So basically, our topic today on the Afrocentric education, we asked the question that do Africans have any friends? Yes, and we discussed that at length. And today, when we were talking about Afrocentric, so we said that we're discussing this so that we can find solutions. So today, the Afrocentric education is ongoing part of it, but it's part of the solution. So it's the first part of the solution to the answer. Do African have any friends? So when we define that a definition no today, then we'll go on to say, if Africans have no friends, then what is the solution then? All right, thank you. That's all I just wanted to add. All right, so thank you, Sister Shanice, then. So if we look at all we've been discussing, everything is linked. And from the time I came on the show, my position always is the first thing is to educate people so that they know history. Because if you don't know history, then nothing will make sense. And if you don't know if things don't make sense to you, then you will take foolish and stupid decisions and you will do things that will be detrimental to you as a people. So the African people, generally speaking, they do things that are detrimental to them as a group. Yeah? And the few that do know, as I said, they usually sell out, and then they only want to say whatever. So generally speaking, if we understand the location of history and what's going on and so on, then we'll be able to make more critical decisions to do better things. So we looked at all the world, yes, and we looked at how Africans civilized the world, from the Africans living. Africans have been around, the modern ones, what they call modern Africans, it's for 300,000 years. For they left Africa to go to the rest of the world, starting around 60,000 years ago. Yes, that's what the majority direct descendants are from today. Yes, and we said that they civilized China, India, the Americas, Britain, etc. But around 6,000 years ago, there's been a systematic thing by the pale people coming out of the caves and mountains of whether you believe they came from wherever and so on. But the fact is that the pale ones came out of the mountains, the Caucasus there, yes, and then they've invaded all around the world. But they've used strategic positioning, strategic things in order to take the world over slowly. Every era, they reinvent themselves, but the agenda is still the same. So the original aim was to take over. And then where they can take over, you can wipe the original people, the African people out, they do. If not, they mix them up a little bit so that they're degrading their color and they're like more lighter skin or whatever. Then they will start like having inferiority complex and following them, etc. Yes? But ultimately, that's just part of the measure. Eventually, they will come back in more. Yeah, and until eventually the people have erased. So, about 500 years ago, they managed to take over half of Europe or infiltrate Europe. They were not a majority; they were still a minority, but they had power and they were able to manipulate people. So from then, the last 500 years, they've been able to go to America, Australia, and all the rest, more or less exterminate the original people and take over. They tried to do the same in Africa. They took over, but they failed in order to destroy the African population. So Africa then is the only landmass where it has the original people, where it's a black majority, so to speak. Yes, and even if they are puppet leaders, at least they're black. But in everywhere else, more or less exterminated the people, and the power is in the hands of them or their hybrids, what they call mixed race and all the rest and stuff like that. So a simple look at the map today of the world, you will see that. It's not me saying it, it's common sense. All right? Take a look at old pictures of America. Take a look at old pictures of China. Take a look at old pictures of Europe. Even like places like Scandinavia. Yes? You look at the people that were living there. Take a look at like the old names and so on and so on. You will see that the people were black today. They're either white or they're pale in those places. So simple common sense. You don't even have to history. It's common sense. Just think about it. You will know that they've been exterminated or mixed up. How did they do that? Okay? So, then, if you understand all of this, then even before you answer the question, do Africans have no friends? You already know the answer. But it seems even today, African leaders, not just leaders, from the common person to the highest person who's so-called educated, even the black in the diaspora, the African in the diaspora, yes, they always seem to think that some white person or some pale person somewhere is the one who comes the solution to them. Yeah. So like I said, this is a foolish, gullible mindset. Yes. And we failed to change that mindset for thousands upon thousands of years. Yeah. When the black people were being exterminated in India, okay, the other black people were saying around the world what was happening. They're supposed to have unified. Yes. When the whites came to America, on the east coast of America, yes, they pretended to be friends. Yeah, I'm just looking at what they call the United States today. I'm not going to like Brazil. I'm not going to Canada. I'm just looking at the United States. Okay? So they helped them with food. But after they got the food and established themselves, they killed the people on the east coast and they started a war with the other people. There was a leader who came and said that, look, we must unify against these people. Ultimately, what they want is to kill all of us, and they will take all over what is called continental United States. The other people never listened. 200 years later, the so-called Native American or the rest, today they're mostly white-looking, yes? Because they've been killed or they've been mixed out or whatever. The ones who have survived, they put them on what's called a reservation, and today they only make about 4% of the population, okay? So what happened? They were exterminated just like the guy said. So my point is like, look, wherever you look and all the rest and so on. So personally, I go by history, so I'm like, yes, I have my own opinion about it. Sorry, Sister Shanice.
Yeah, sorry about that. Carry on, my brother. Mm-hmm.
All right. I go by history because history is the biggest guide. So like I say, when you're a young person, you put your hand inside the fire and it burns your hand. Don't go back and put your hand again on the fire. If you do it and it burns you again, then you should learn. Yeah? So, if you have a bad experience with somebody, you give them another chance and they mess you up again. You keep going there. You're foolish and you're gullible. I don't know what anyone wants to say. Whether you've been wherever. For me, that's foolishness and gullibility. Yeah? Let's say that's it is. So, for you to progress as a person, as an individual, as a people, you must change your mindset. Change your mindset. Yeah? So if you fail to change that, you're gullible and you're naive. So what do we have today, in short, then, with the African leaders and African people and whatever? Wherever you meet an African, a black person, yes, it doesn't matter where they are in the world, okay? They're always seeking validation from pale people, yeah? Either they're fully white or pale Chinese, pale Asian or pale whatever, okay? But that's their mindset. They always believe that someone who's not them will help them. But from history from 6,000 years till now, common sense would tell you. So Marcus Garvey said 100 years ago, all right, Africans must unite. And they must unite, or that's the only way they will take their own destiny together. Nkrumah came and said the same. Other people have come and said the same. But because the average African or the majority of African, or even not even the majority, but just a few, yeah. But those ones who have been saying that message over and over and over again, and just like in the past, they've been saying, ancient time, they've been saying. An average person don't just get it. Even if they get into the simple information, for them to find out the opposite, they always want to look again to some savior from somewhere. So I say this: anyone who's inside the WhatsApp group, yes, or just generally see Africans speaking, or anyone in the diaspora speaking on TV, you will notice that they always do that. Yeah, the majority always lie at that. So the question then you ask then is this: then why is it that they cannot understand the simple history that I've showed now, all the people have talked about and so on? So this is why we looked at this, and we looked at all evidence. So anyone with the right common sense now, with critical thinking, will see that Africans have no friends, just like our ancestor Dr. Henry Clark has said. Okay, the only solutions then is for African unity. And just like I read the other earlier, there was a systematic thing that was put in place to get rid of African spirituality, to get rid of African education system, to get rid of the morality of the Africans, and for it to be imposed the Western agenda or the Arab agenda. You're not going to get anywhere without changing it. So this is where we comes then. So since we agree then, and we know now for a fact, if you don't know and you don't agree, for me, if you don't agree that the Africans have no friends, you're either naive, yeah, you're either ignorant. Ignorant doesn't mean you don't know, but ignorance, if you don't know something, it's not an insult. But ignorant person, when you want to insult them and so on, you mean that they know, but they don't want to do any different. So my point is that anyone who's a learned person who read some books or just use common sense and look at the other world, they will see that Africans have no friends. So if you don't have that position, I'm sorry, you're ignorant. And I mean it in an insulting way. Okay? I have no time to argue with you and stuff like that. Common sense tells you Africans have no friends. So if Africans have no friends, what must we do then? What are the solutions? So the solution is simple. Marcus Garvey explains it 100 years ago. He talked about all the stuff that you need to do. And as I said, Nkrumah has explained it. And even Garvey, even Gaddafi was talking about it just 20 years ago, 15 years ago before he was assassinated. Okay? So the first one is really simple then. As we read, let's read it again so we understand. So it's not me making it up. It's we're going by things that make sense. So like we said, Lord Macaulay, in fact, I will read Leopold first. So King Leopold of Belgium, yeah, you always hear about Hitler, how Hitler killed 6 million Jews. And he's supposed to be the worst evil person ever. Yes, according to their history. Okay? But King Leopold, he killed 15 million Africans. That's a conservative estimate. In other words, that's a minimum. Yeah, it's actually higher than that, but let's give him that. Okay, what did he say? So in 1883, this is not even 200 years ago. It's just over 130 years ago or whatever. Okay, what did he say? Yeah, about 150 years ago or whatever. Look at what he says. So your knowledge of the gospel, which we wrote, will allow you to order the Africans in any way you want. We encourage them to love poverty, convince the Negro that is poor, means African, happier and will inherit the heaven, and very difficult to reach the kingdom of God. You have to detach yourself from them and make them respect everything which they revere as sacred and give them courage and confront us. I make reference to their spirituality. It means African God way of things. The system which is a threat to our conquest. You must do everything in your power to make it disappear. By all means, make Africans a Christian. By only then will they go away from their rich culture and everything they respect about themselves. Yeah? Okay. Lord Macaulay, which I just read, I will read it again because it's key to everything I'm saying. So everything is logical. There's no one coming here to say lie, this and that, because you'll be talking nonsense. I have traveled across the length and breadth of Africa. I have not seen one person who's a beggar, who's a thief, Such wealth I've not seen in this country. Such high moral values. So he says country. So he says Africans are one people and they're a country. Okay? So that's the first thing. We must unite so that we're one country. Ever conquer this country unless we break away the very backbone of this nation, which is our spiritual and cultural heritage, and therefore propose that we replace our old and ancient. So we talk about the spirituality in the past about my heart. So today I'm going to focus on what he talked about. He says, I propose that we replace our old and ancient education system. Yes, our culture, for if the Africans think that all that is foreign and English is good, or French or whatever, then their native culture, they will become what we want them, a truly dominant nation. So he's talking about culture there, but today we're going to focus, well, not just today, but we're doing introduction today, but we'll go more into it next strong as well. But the ancient education system. All right, so what is it then? So in African political talk or African way of talking about it, it's called Sankofa. Yeah, it means return to African, what was there in Africa. So Lord Macaulay is not a stupid person. He said that let's get rid of the African education system and give them. So that's what they did. So today they're giving us what is called Eurocentric education system, colonial education system, whitewash education system, etc. This is one of the main tools why Africans are so brainwashed, and that's why they cannot do anything of any note. Yes. And this is why they require validation. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is media. The other aspect is spirituality. And the other aspect is culture, which is linked. But today, we're going to tackle the fundamental thing that is that Africans must create their own education system. But first, they must understand what leadership is. Yes? What is leadership? You hear that over and over again. Yeah, leader, yeah. This leader, yeah. This leader, yeah. But what is leadership? Okay? So leadership actually just means, I'm going to put it in a simple way, yeah? Leadership is when you come to help your people, yes, to take them to a position that where you want to go, yes? So for example, if we accept that Africans today are slaves, they have been exploited and they've been exploited for thousands of years even, okay? What is a leader who come to do for African people? A leadership that does not take them where they're, first of all, they're free. Secondly, they can use their own resources. And secondly, they can have economic power, political power, military power, and the position in the world is not leadership. Yes? So that's the first thing that we have to understand. Then if we understand that, and if we have good leaders, then we must, just like we notice that our education system has been corrupted, like other things and so on, you must replace the corrupted education system with a new education system. So first things first then, I've mentioned Marcus Garvey. 100 years ago, he said this stuff about the leadership. So Sister Shineza, I would like you to play that. Because all we're talking about here, some people come and they think they're talking new. There's nothing I'm talking new. Yeah? I'm not talking anything new. And the people who come and talk, they're not talking anything new either. Everything is shown by history. We must just go back to history to really understand what's going on. Yeah, that's it. 100 years ago, he's saying exactly the same thing I'm going to say now. Okay, so listen to him. Don't listen to me. Listen to him. Yeah. Okay, Sister Chinese, you're going to play Marcus Garvey, please. Thank you.
Okay, he wasn't mincing his words there. Back to you, Brother
Okay.
Mama.
All right, thank you, Sister Shanice. So, like you said, people who cannot lead, yes, who come to you and say like leadership and so on, yeah. So basically, look, to put it in simple words, okay, whites, Chinese now who are coming up, Asians who are coming up, yeah, and the rest of the world, they look at the African people as imbeciles, yeah, people who can quite get it together, all right, because they look at them and say like, I'm not talking about Africa. I'm not just talking about Africans on the continent. I'm just talking black people in general. Yeah, but obviously they know. It doesn't matter if you try to call yourself a Hebrew or Aboriginal. You're running away from the fact. Everyone sees you as an African, and they relate you to what they call Africa. Yeah, some people can argue about the name change, but I'm not really getting into that. Okay? An imbecile is somebody who can get it together. Okay? Who cannot do what must be done. So I use the example of the other time I tried to say, like the World Cup, for example. Yeah? Even if you don't follow football, but at least you will know what the World Cup is. Every 4 years, it comes around. Even people who don't follow football, they watch it. Why? Because it's a way of now people saying their own nation or their own region or whatever in the so-called world stage, just like the Olympics. So Africans, by and large, wherever they come there, they make a fool of themselves and they go out. I'm now 40, yes? Since the age of 10, I've been waiting. It's always the same. And my country is actually the biggest embarrassment because they're always the worst. Okay? And they never learn anything. They never learn anything from it. They're not even embarrassed. Because when the thing is coming up in 4 years and you even manage to qualify, other people put strategies to do something different. But we don't do anything. So what Marcus Garvey is saying in short is the same thing that if you look at African leadership today, you will see most of them, whether some of them have been threatened or what, but most of them, they're not even been threatened. It's not about them being threatened. They just have cowardice themselves. Yeah? They will not speak like I'm speaking. Okay? I'm living inside the United Kingdom. I will speak like this wherever I am because I'm not scared. Okay? If we were all like that, then we will change. So my point is that, so the first leadership that you should have then is this. What is education? Because that's another thing. Yeah, education. Yeah? What is education? Okay? So education is not about repeating stuff like a parrot. Because a parrot is a bird that repeats stuff. Yes? It can hear what you say and they repeat those things over and over again. That does not make a parrot clever. Okay? So there's two systems of education, basically. There's education that makes people think. And then there's education that makes people memorize. So you need a bit of both, basically. Yeah? But if you have an education that's overwhelmingly mainly just about remembering stuff, then the people who are good at remembering, they will become the ones who get the degrees and all the rest. But in reality, they will not be able to do anything. So that's what we have today in Africa. So, in fact, since this is just an introduction, I wouldn't go too much into it now. So I would let now my fellow African, to explain it very well for you because he really explains it in a very comical but a very simple way that you will really understand what we're talking about. Yeah. So this brother is from Zambia. I was not able to get his name, but he really explains it, and I don't know afterwards I will talk a bit more on it. So you can play the one where it says Eurocentric education system has made Africans into parrot slaves.
Okay.
They only memorize it, but lack
coming up.
Common sense.
Today's video is going to be centered on two ideologies, Eurocentrism and Afrocentrism. Both ideologies have a single premise that's been developed over the years to create a narrative that governs them. And since each one of them finds the other unreasonable, I think it's time we dive into these ideologies and better understand where they are coming from. So, we are going to look deep into what Eurocentrism and Afrocentrism really is about. Have you ever wondered why most people know so little about Africa? How African history is hidden from the rest of the world, and why most of the world still believe that Africa doesn't have a history? It might surprise some of you, but this was done intentionally during the transatlantic slave trade. Unfortunately, this is going on to this day. So, how can something that started centuries ago still be working today? And more importantly, why did this even start in the first place? It all started during the 15th century, at a time Europeans were first coming into contact with Africans. They saw the richness and complexities in most African societies, but their main goal coming into Africa was to exploit the people and the land. So clearly, they needed to come up with a narrative that Africans were not civilized. They told their countrymen that Africans were barbaric savages without laws and religion, and according to some observers and academics, without even a language, and that they would acquire civilization on the plantation. This tactic worked perfectly because in the end, it justified the exploitation of the African people and the continent. But they started to discover more evidence that Africans were truly civilized. They found ruins of ancient African kingdoms plus major cities that would break down the lie they've been telling themselves and the rest of the world. So obviously, they had to come up with something new or adjust their story.
When Europeans first saw Great Zimbabwe in the 1890s, they could not believe that so imposing a structure could have been built by the ancestors of the Africans they found living there.
Zimbabwe was not built by either blacks or whites. The people who built it were Semitic. They were brown in color and were evidently the Sabaean people, who were a mixture of Arabs and Jews.
They denied African heritage, telling the world that Africans couldn't have possibly built those great monuments and kingdoms without outside help. And even today, they would rather credit African achievement to aliens rather than give credit to Africans. This kind of practice has been the backbone of European historians for centuries, which gave birth to the notion that Africans never had a civilization until Europeans set foot into Africa, giving birth to the ideology that Europe is superior, earning the term Eurocentrism. Let's move on to Afrocentrism. But before we continue, kindly subscribe to this channel for more amazing content. Thank you. Afrocentrism was born as a response to Eurocentrism. For nearly 400 years, the narrative that Africans never had a history and culture has dominated the minds of not only the Europeans, but also the African people. So some African historians and philosophers started the argument that such a narrative is not only racist, but a negative stereotype of a whole continent. They started the race to research Africa's true history, to change the narrative and reveal the true identity of Africans. Their main goal was to take away the idea that Africans were savages who needed civilization, and to debunk the lies told to the world for centuries. According to Afrocentrism, African history and culture began in ancient Egypt, which was the birthplace of world civilization. Egypt presided over a unified black Africa until its ideas and technologies were stolen and its records of accomplishment obscured by Europeans. And the only way to truly rid the inferior mindset out of Africans is to let go of the absurd idea that Europeans are superior. This tactic has worked pretty well too. More Africans are seeking to reclaim the real history of Africa and to spread the word that everything Europeans have said about Africa is a complete lie. Africans are not savages, and the continent is a place where civilization started, but the West tried to hide this history in order to take the knowledge and use it to develop their world. In simple terms, Africa is superior, earning the term Afrocentrism. Obviously, with such a gap of understanding between these ideologies, it's not hard to understand why they don't see eye to eye. Each one of them believes the other is harmful to history, so this has created an endless loop of argument that's been happening for decades, if not centuries. So, where do you stand on this topic? Let's have a decent conversation as to why these ideologies is bad for both Africans and Europeans. There is no doubt that Europeans destroyed and denied African history to benefit from the rich resources on the continent, and stereotyping a whole continent created Afrocentrism. And at the same time, there are some Africans who take Afrocentrism way too far. Of course, we need to reclaim our history, but we need to do it the right way, by creating institutions that will research our past and teach them in schools so that the whole of Africa can learn their history right from the classroom. In simple terms, writing our own history doesn't have to be an argument. So, let me know what you think in the comment section. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.
Back over to you, Brother Mama. Thanks so much for that clip.
Yeah, so Sister Shanuz, I think you actually played the longer one there. You played the Eurocentrism versus Afrocentrism.
That's right.
I think that's one you played.
Oh, was that was that not the right clip?
It's okay.
Oh dear.
Yeah, the one I wanted you to. Sorry, I will talk about that one. The one I wanted you to play originally was the one with the black guy who was saying.
Oh yes, I've got that one here. Shall I play that now?
Yeah.
Okay, it's only two.
It's okay.
It's only 3 minutes. That one.
Yeah. Let me talk this one then before, so the point is not lost. Otherwise, we'll get confused.
Okay.
All right, so let's go back a bit then. So, basically, what he's explaining, I wanted originally to give an example so you understand, or you already understand. What this guy was explaining was the difference between what we have presently, what is called Eurocentrism, yes? Or basically whitewash mentality, whitewash thing. If you look at the world, everything more or less is run by white ways of doing things. whether it's the clothes, even the Chinese, they abandon their own clothes. They're wearing Western clothes. Yeah? Because if you look at the clothes that Chinese were wearing, they were not wearing what they're wearing now. Okay, they're wearing Western clothes. Yeah? The economic system, they're using Western economic system, etc. So when we come to the African, we can see that the world is a white-controlled world, and people are copying Westerners. So the values that we hold, like the white Jesus, the white is God, white Savior, this and that, English is better, French is better, etc. Even how to do stuff, what they call medicine. The medicine themselves, they will take the things from the natural plant, they will bleach it white, and they give it to you, and you would drink, and you say Western medicine. Yeah? The food, they want to bleaching it out. Even the chicken, they're bleaching it out. So that's what we're following. Everything comes from Western, then we start arguing over it and so on. But we do not have our own things. So what is why he's saying that all came about in the last 500 years, more or less. Okay? Yeah? Before that, just like I read before about Lord Macaulay, Africans had their own everything. That was serving them well, that made them the most moral people on earth. Even if you wanted the ancient Greek, which is like 3,000, 4,000 years ago, they would say that the Ethiopians and Africans were the most learned of people. They're the most long-lived. Yes? Etc., etc., etc. So we can see that's coming from generation to generation. So this guy explains then that the difference between what we have now and what we're calling the Afrocentrism. So in this case, we're talking about Afrocentric, African, in simple words. Afrocentric worldview, African worldview. Afrocentricism is the plural. Yeah? So Eurocentrism or whitewashing. Yeah? Afrocentricism, African way, African worldview, African thinking, or black world thinking, etc. Yeah? So he explains it differently. So it's important. You see, when Westerners and Chinese, etc., come and do so, they do something specific. They have things they're going by. So, for example, when they create their institutions for geopolitics and so on, they have agenda, they got points they're working by. The problem we have as a people is that we don't pay attention to key things, and then we don't follow up. So, Sister Shanice did an example. Actually, I will wait for that. Yeah, okay, right. So let's leave it that then for this. So, Afrocentrism is the opposite of Eurocentrism. So, African way of doing things is not a blackwash way of white way of doing stuff. That's what we must understand. Okay? Because there are many Africans who don't want to be African. They just think that by changing some stuff, they can still carry on as they are. No. It will not achieve any results. So, in simply put, you cannot make Jesus white. You cannot make Jesus black. You cannot make Jesus black and think that will solve everything among Africans, because they will still be brainwashed. So today, the common image of Jesus is white, isn't it? Everywhere they're showing the white Jesus. And then if you try to say, oh, Africans have been brainwashed by Christianity, they will say, but if they're not reading the Bible properly. In the Bible, it says that Jesus was a black man. So, okay, now, and they say Yeshua or whatever. Okay? So now, do they still subscribe to the belief that we have been saved by Jesus? Yes, they do. When they pray and they close their eyes and see a white man, they will not tell you that, but they do. Yeah? So, if they believe themselves to be the devil is black and they have inferior, how is it that they're going to save anybody if they're waiting for someone to save them? Yeah? So that's what we're talking about. What we're saying is that Afrocentrism look from everything from African point of view, African worldview. So we must go back to that and bring it back now as a basis of everything. So that's the simple explanation in a simple way for the time being. Yeah? So African way of doing things is the opposite way. So what is it now? We're talking about families. African values says that man, woman, and then the children, those are the foundation of our society. That's what our ancestors have taught us. So no need to get into a debate with anybody else. This is our values. That's what we must promote. Yeah? Simple. You don't have to have why they're doing this, and that. Whatever they're doing, they have their own agenda. What's your own agenda? This is our agenda. This is our customs. This is what our people. This is what our ancestors gave us. Simple. You don't have to argue with anybody now. All right? Okay. So, Sister Shanice, can you play the clip then that I asked originally? Then I will give example, and then we can open the lines. Then people can call in, and we can really discuss this as an introduction before we go next strong to look at the proper things that want it to be, etc., etc., etc. Thank you.
Okay, here's the clip, 3 minutes long.
They realized that if we take away Africans from practice and move them to theory, we will be creating a labor force for ourselves. So they brought a school system which did not promote thinking but promoted remembering.
Say that again.
They brought a school system which did not promote thinking but promoted remembering for the sake of creating good employees who don't think but can remember. Okay?
Right.
So they brought a school system where you learnt useless things. Homo habilis. Who was Shaka's mother? What is the longest river in Africa? Tell me, what is the use of that rubbish? Okay? So you went into school and you were studying how many times Muslims pray per day.
Yep.
You wake up at night to study how many times Muslims pray per day. So you memorize photosynthesis. You memorize how many teeth a dog has. You memorize everything. And at the end of the day, what did they produce? They produced someone who was a container of useless knowledge. A container of useless knowledge.
Right.
That is why today we have doctors, we have been independent for 55 years. Have you heard that there are vaccines being made by Zambian doctors? So you walk out of medical school as someone who knows when to give Panadol, how to take temperature. You are a doctor who is a Panadol distributor. And it's not your fault, the education system. Okay? You have professors in this country, in the School of Forestry at Copperbelt University.
Yep.
We have lived with Mukula tree since God created the world. All they know is how to label the parts of the tree. They don't know the value of the tree.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So when this mission succeeded, then they came to set up industries. And when they set up industries, who was the laborer? The graduate from the School of Remembering. Okay. Someone who would remember how to dig, where to dig. Someone who would remember how to cut a tree and how many pieces. Someone would remember. And they rewarded you with a bribe called a salary, and we became comfortable.
Right.
So when they come into Africa, what are they coming to do? They are coming to reap your resources, and you are a means of production. So this is what made Africa poor.
Thank you for that clip there, Brother Mama. Over to you.
All right. Thank you, Sister Shanice. So today, then, look, Africans have no friends. This is historically proven without a shadow of a doubt. And as this guy is saying, it's saying simple explanation. We shall will go further in a little bit. But from what he said, it's clear, even before what he said, that Africans worldwide, is my words. What is explaining is proving that. Yeah? Africans worldwide are systematically brainwashed and indoctrinated in Eurocentric worldview, wide way of doing things. This has led them to self-alienation. In other words, self-hate, inferiority complex, slave-like zombie mentality, because they're like asleep. Like, in the zombie films. They just do the same thing, all of them. Their mind has been controlled. And no matter whatever you try to show, they don't change. They just do the same thing. Until you kill them or destroy them, they carry on doing this exactly the same thing. So, today, just like here in the West, whether they're African Americans or the recent Africans who come here or whatever, in Africa, there are numerous people with PhDs, with masters, with degrees, and they walk around big. You know how we black people, we love showing up, showing big cars, showing big house, showing whatever. You must understand that nature, because we like that sort of thing. It makes us feel good. Yeah? But what he's saying is really a simple example. He gives an example in Zambia, where they have the Kikuyu tree or whatever he's calling it. That tree is there been for generations. Yes? Their ancestors live with it. once upon a time, the ancestors used to use it for all sorts of different things, whether to use for material, to use for medicine or whatever. But today, those people there, it doesn't matter their learning. They don't know anything to do with anything because the whites who taught them, so the whites now is in their mind because they're supposed to be independent. But the education system they follow is the colonial education system. Many of the time, it's written straight from London. They just take it and use it. Just like with the church, whether they're following Anglican, it's from England, whether they call him from the one from Vatican, the Roman Catholic Church, is from Rome, or the evangelists from America, or the saints, whatever. They're always from somewhere else. Yeah? So the same with the education system. It doesn't matter if the black people were on it. All they can know is how to name the top of the tree. If they say the bottom of the tree is a trunk, if they say it's the roots, they label it. But they don't know how to dissect the tree and do anything with it. They don't even see the need of it. Okay? We have doctors, but they cannot produce anything. When there's a so-called pandemic or whatever, they have to get the whites to bring them medicine from India or whatever. And they just distribute it. And finally, the average person, the only thing that they're doing good can do something is what is sick, a white-collar job. Listen to that, a white-collar job. If it's a white-collar job, work on the office, what's the rest? Black-collar. So working as a farmer is black-collar. It's bad, isn't it? That's why they stay in there starving. And they have land. And then Chinese can come inside their country and make them do work. And they go to work for Chinese. Yes? To grow food in their own land where they can grow it themselves. Yeah? So, it's explain simple stuff then. That's what's happening. So if you look at any black person, it doesn't matter where you are, whether they're in Brazil, whether in whatever, that's what they seek to do. Whether you look at film entertainment, we have also Hollywood with millions and billions. Why can they not create their own film industry? They still go to the whites to give them one award every 10 years in Hollywood. the same with the footballers. They have also money. Why can't they take that money and invest in South African club or whatever? They don't do that. They take the money and they buy the whites do. So this is all a product of your Eurocentric education system. Unless you change it, okay, nothing will ever change, even in a million years. Because each day, new generation have been brainwashed. Yes, through the education system. They are school now, been brainwashed. So I want to talk about my background. I'm an educator, a proper sense, an educator. Yeah, I am doing history, yeah. But really, I've been working in schools for the last 15 years or so. All right? That's what my day-to-day job was. Yes? To understand what education is, whether from a Eurocentric point of view or from the African point of view. Yes? Because day-to-day, that's what I was doing. But you don't have to work in school to even understand all of that. It's just common sense. All right? Okay. So Sister Shanice gave an example last time then, like she was in Gambia, yes? But it's not just in Gambia, you can see it everywhere throughout Africa, even among our people in the diaspora. Okay? They're trying to build up the road or whatever, but they're digging stuff haphazardly. Yeah? And then doing stuff that has no sense, no basis. Okay? Have they actually thought about what they're doing? Or are they just doing it for the sake of doing it? What's the structure? What are their aims? What's their objectives? They don't even think about that. You see? So this is the problem that plagues our people. Yes? So the education system is reading and writing is just part of the education system. Yes? So first thing first, we must teach in African languages. So we already established that you need a one language to unify Africa. So we're not yet to argue about tribalism. I'm Xhosa, I'm Igbo, I'm Fulani, or whatever. Simply logical and experience the same. We can see that Swahili is already the most well-used African language, even in the diaspora. Some people are studying it. And also it's very simple compared to other African languages that everyone can learn. Okay? Just like you spend time to learn English, learn French, and all the rest of stuff like that, we need to use that as a tool to teach African, teach among the people. Yes? And then secondly, we need to teach about the history itself. That's one aspect of the education system. Yes? We need to teach about mathematics. Not just the mathematics that you do like the counting that you use today, but advanced mathematics. You know, the stuff we'll talk about, IFA that we were talking about that gave rise to the universe and everything coming out of the universe and so forth. We need to teach that and so on and so on. Okay? But today, since it's just an introduction, I'm just talking about on a separate level. In Common Strong, we go deeper into the aspects of the education thing that need to be reformed and what aspects they need to teach, etc. Yes. So today, the key thing, the key keep learning point is really simple, really. Africans have no friends. That's been proven. Yes, there's no dispute about that one. So if you're seeking China or Russia to be your friend, you're foolish. Yeah? You're foolish and you're gullible, you're naive, you're just ignorant. Okay? When they get up in the power in the world, they will oppress you like they've always been doing. So simple common sense will tell you that China was once black, even 100 years ago. Today, the pale ones are dominating it. Where are the black people gone? Yeah? So what do you think, if they kill all the black people in China now, not all of them, but most of them for them to get power, yes? What do you think they're going to do to you? Russia was once black. How did Russia become so big? So a simple pick up the history book will tell you. So if they get rid of all those people, what do you think they're going to do to you? Okay? So history teaches you. Marcus Garvey said it 100 years ago, and he said on the clip, he said that. You must unite and come up. Yes? Stop looking for friends left, right, and center. And then Dr. Henry Clark said it. So one of the things you must do then to do is to change your education system. You cannot be arguing about white supremacy and African, and you haven't even done the basic to change your education system. In nearly all African countries, basically, more or less, yeah, they have a Eurocentric and some rap mixed with the Eurocentric type of education system, but they don't have African education system. So that's the first thing you have to do. Just like if you say you want to free yourself, get rid of your European names. That's something you can do. No one's stopping you. Yeah? So if you really want to change your names, or at least not for you. When you have kids, name them an African name. You can also start saying, now I want to be African. We carry on naming your children Western names or Arab names. It makes no sense, does it? Yeah? Get rid of the colonial languages. All right. So that's it. That's all I have to say for the year now. So when people ring up, they don't come out to talk about conspiracies and this and that. Talk logical, common sense. Okay? I'm speaking English to you, but English is not my language. I learned it. All right? Yeah. Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brother Mama. As always, you know, we are so appreciative of the works that you do, putting these discussion points together, these educational lessons and discussion points together. A couple of things on the English language that, you know, we don't use here, just to remind you, I know you corrected yourself afterwards. We don't call our beautiful children kids. They're not goats, the children of goats. So before, you know, my callers ring up to correct you on that. Just a reminder, we don't call our children kids here. We call them, that's okay. And also, you know, we call our family brothers and sisters. We don't call them guys. So I know that was another slip, but that's not only just for your reference, also for the callers who may call in. Just to remind you that here on the Big G Galaxy Alfiwi, the only de-brainwashing station, we have abandoned certain terminologies that we commonly use. And we refer to each other as brothers and sisters. So I'm going to give you the number in a moment for you to call in on. Please, when you call in, remember to put your phone on mute. Mute yourself as soon as I accept your call, because you can then listen to the show live down the earpiece of your phone or via the laptop, whatever mechanism you're using. So another really interesting presentation today by our brother Marmar. We're looking at Eurocentrism, the ideology of Eurocentrism versus Afrocentricism, in particular within the education setting. And also just want to refer you to one of the videos that I did. I had the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Karanja Kita Carroll last year, December or so, and he has written a number of papers actually on African history, African studies, Africological studies, and Afrocentricism. And he talks of the importance of having an African ideological framework and an African paradigm. that goes, beyond the post-colonial Eurocentric framework. And so he's written a number of papers on that, an Africological worldview. So if you want to extend, your frame of reference around these terms and these disciplines, a whole bodies of thought has been developed around this. So go to my YouTube channel and just search for Africana Studies, developing an Africological worldview. And here on the Big G Galaxy Afri, we have our brother Momo, who is breaking it down for us as well.
Yes.
So just a moment, please. Let me give out the telephone number. So get your pens ready. I'm going to give you the phone number that you need in order to interact with our brother Momo, who has just delivered a brilliant presentation for us. He'll also be telling you, what books you can use as well, what books you can read to expand your knowledge and your learning around this particular topic. So I will leave it for our brother to do so. Okay, so let me get the phone number, or while you get your pens, let me allow our brother Momo to come back. Okay, jump in, brother Momo.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, I just realized as you were saying the recommendation, I just wanted to talk about him basically and to recommend his book basically. Like I always say, reading, honestly, reading is the best thing you can do. And no one taught me all these things. Most of this stuff I just read, honestly. Yeah, when you read and you think what they're saying and you look at the world, you understand stuff yourself. Like Sister Shanice always says, from the ancestors, the knowledge is there, whatever you want to call it. You will understand what they're saying. So the book, like he spent, just like Dr. Henry Clark spent time talking about, studying like, the Western and the history and all the rest. His approach is the education, what he calls Afrocentricity. Yes? Mm-hmm. It's just another word for Afrocentricism. Yes? Okay? So Afro's A-F-R-O, that's African. Centric means focus on Africa. Yeah? And then city is just a plural of that. So A-F-R-O-C-N-T-R-I-C-T, Afrocentricity. Yes? And the guy is called Molefi Kete.
Not the guy, the brother. Guy Bumpam Night.
Yes, a brother is called Molefi Kete Asante. So Molefi is Molefikeite, and then Asante is A-S-A-N-T-A. And also he's practicing what he's talking about. He had like a Western name and he changed it to the African one. But anyway, his book more will explain the basis of that. So this book, honestly, please just read it, just read the book. Also on YouTube, you can type out his name, and he's done numerous lectures there, as well as you can get the other things from Sister Sinead. Also, in addition to that, because ultimately, what is all of this all about? Ultimately, we want power. It's the power that controls the world. Yes? So whether power in politics, power in economic, power in terms of families, power in terms of economics, power in terms of culture, the Westerners have the power now. They have military power, they have cultural power, they have economic power, etc. All right? So there's a book called by one of our brothers, yes, it's now an ancestor, I think, yes, but Amos and Wilson, okay? Mm-hmm. It's called Blueprint for Black Power. I gave this last time as well, last strong as well. A moral, political, and economic imperative for the 21st century. Basically, what Marcus Garvey was talking about, what Nkrumah was talking about. It talks about the key things that we need to understand, that the black economics, etc., and other things from the Western point of view that a Western African will understand outside of Africa. Yes, but ultimately, the center of power is Africa, and they put all of these things together. If you read those two books in context, then you understand the African worldview and what we need to do to go forward. So when we had the so-called independent generation, that's what it's supposed to have started. Some of them could have started like President Lumumba of Congo, but they assassinated him. Yeah, the same with Sankara. They tried to do something, they assassinated him. But by and large, most of the other ones, they never made it. They never made a start. Even the most pro, they did not make a start. Like for example, Mugabe. Yes, Mugabe took away the land and he did many good things, but he never changed the education system. Yes, in fact, he loved Christianity, and he was always at length to go around and do his blessings and all the rest. Although Afrocentric education system doesn't necessarily have to do with stuff to say, oh, let's get rid of Christianity or whatever. But my point in trying to say that he made no thing to change that. He didn't even change the language. Yeah,
so what we recognize, my brother, let me just quickly interject and move the program forward because the call's already coming in. I haven't given out the number, and we want to allow some time for interaction and allow some time again for you to respond towards the end. I've got a couple of announcements to make as well. Okay, so we will be coming back to that, but, point well made. The Eurocentrism, what we are defining ideologically now as Eurocentrism has engulfed us for hundreds of years. We have been caught up in this Eurocentric ideology, which has consumed, our culture, our religion, and who we are as a people, and everybody, all of us have been caught up in that. But, we're highlighting now the great works of those who are out there developing a new ideological framework and paradigm they're calling Afrocentricism. And thanks for breaking that down. And that is a new foundation. Well, it's not that new, but it's a foundation that we can use to build, a response to Eurocentrism, and it's important that we do so. But very importantly is the works that need to be done to get that ideology and that framework out there. Otherwise, our leaders will continue to be consumed by their Eurocentric worldview, and then we blame them for their failures. But, if their mind is not right, then anything they do, or almost everything that they do, will not be right. Okay, so for those of you who've got your pens ready and want the telephone number to call in so that you can join the conversation and the discussion on the show today, the number is 0203 289 6504. That's 0203 289 6504. You can also link us via Skype. Our Skype contact name is Official Galaxy Afiwi Radio. Official Galaxy Afiwi Radio. Very importantly, make sure you put that official at the beginning of your Skype search for our name. Okay, so the topic for conversation today is an introduction to Afrocentricism education. And we have our special guest, Brother Momo, in the house. And we look forward to your participation in the conversation. Also, while I got the moment and the mic, just to let you know that on Friday, I have the privilege of interviewing, an amazing brother. He's the founder of Abi Tumi, and I've set up an abitumi.com channel. It is an African channel and we all need to have an Abitumi TV channel and other channel. We can put all of our videos, all of our radio shows, everything on that channel, and we can say and talk about what we want to talk about. And my brother's going to be joining me on Friday. We're going to do a Zoom event. It's via abibitumi.com, and there is a charge of a donation of $10, which will go towards the building of the All Black platform. This platform rivals, the YouTube platform, basically the Facebook and the social media platforms. Those who are totally sold on abitumi.com and abitumitv.com, they don't interact on any of the Eurocentric channels and platforms. They've totally abandoned them. You can't communicate with them on any of those platforms. And basically, the Eurocentrics, they continue to do the work, and they're trying to prove that ancient Egypt, while they're calling it Egypt, was actually white and not black. Can you believe it? I mean, those of us who, are at least awoke about the history of Egypt and North Africa know without a shadow of the doubt that all of the accomplishments, all of the major accomplishments of ancient times in that region of Africa, Kemet, which they renamed to Egypt, was actually built by Africans, people of melanated complexion. But they have these former Egyptologists that's doing a tour around America, and they're going to be revealing all these secrets, they're saying, or that has been hidden from time, hidden from the vast majority of the public about Africa. And the tickets are like from £100 up to £1,000 for this event that this former Egyptologist is doing across 23 cities in America. Well, we have our own spokespeople, and he's going to be talking about why Kemet, the land stroke nation of black people, matters to Kemetians, to us as Africans, as black people. And so that's this Friday, the 7th of April, 8 p.m., Ghana Town. And it says here in the ad, there has been a concerted effort by many non-African Egyptologists and their anti-black collaborators to mainstream disinformation and anti-inform the world at large and African equal black people, specifically by replacing the indigenous term Kemet, land of the black people, rendered conventionally as Kemet, with the relatively meaningless ancient Egypt. And the term, let's grab that call, sorry, so it gets out the way. Okay, now I can get back. Callers, I'm coming to you just after this. So that black people with ancient Egyptians, so they've replaced the names of Kemet and Kemetians, which meant black people, land of the black, with ancient Egyptians. This disinformation campaign obfuscates, basically hides, matters, and renders virtually every aspect of Kemet land of the blacks and the Kemetian black people meaningless and unintelligible. By using the name that the Kemetian blacks and the Kemetian black people call themselves, we rectify this grievous case of academic malpractice and intellectual fraud, which constitutes one of the longest running and most egregious gaslighting campaigns in the history of the world. My gosh, I can't even pronounce some of the words that this scholar uses, and I interview him for me. But anyway, I have the honor of interviewing him. I will be getting a copy of the video as well. But if you can support and you want the link, get in touch and I'll get that out to you. So, as I said, it's going to be a privilege to interview Dr. Obinfu on this particular topic. So, our scholars are out there undoing the works that the Eurocentric masses are doing to undermine us. Right, calls are coming in, so let me move out the way and bring in the callers on the line. Our first caller was Brother Julius, then Brother Nenekuti, then we've got 976 and 341. Brother Julius, welcome. Welcome to the discussion.
Rise up, and more voodoo to Queen Nani II.
Hey, voodoo power black at you, my beautiful Kemetian brother.
Yes, my sister. You see, I've already, long time, you understand, because I heard they say they want to bring the women forward. But the women have already been forward there. You are one of the first lady, even though they were having what they call their corona and this and that. You say, you know what? You was like a darkest sword, an African lady. You just moved between it. You went to Gambia, you traveled through it and everything. So, hey, look, sis, more power to you. And continue to maintain that. And to my brother, Mao, my sister, there's one thing I'm glad you bring up just now, which is something really myself was having that idea when you talk about Kemet. You see, when we talk about Kem and Kemet and this ancient Egyptian, you see, because this is where these people will bring to divide and rule us. In other words, some were called Nigeria now, some were called Gambia, some were called Sierra Leone, some were called Kenya, some were called, like in South Africa now, they haven't got name, they just say South Africa, and all these kind of things, and so on, with they name us and divide and rule us. But that land was originally what was black land, Nubian, African. Now, when we talk about, even we are not talking about countries in our early days, right? When actually some of us bring something like what we call Benin City, because you see what happened, they're trying to bring confusion around us. And even when they use that word kingdom, we were not kingdom people and so on. You understand? In the early days, we were just these black land people who do all our development and things, everything for that black land, what they call Nubian, Alkebulan, and the Kemet and so on, right? Some come to name it Ethiopia, come to name it or whatever it is. It's not was a specific region, right? So that's why when we African people or the black people, the melanated people come together, first of all, we must forget about those people who live in North Africa, them so-called them who come to join us. I want to call them African, like the Algerian, them, and all these kind of things, them, so that we don't bring confusion. But we must concentrate where the black people, them, exist. This is the first thing we have to get. Like yesterday, I was driving in this country, my sister, and I saw 3 white boys. And a black boy must have come from a shop where he went and buy milk for maybe his family, maybe mom sent or whatever it is. And I was driving and I can see the rhetoric and the way how these 3 white boys were looking at that boy who was just putting on the slippers and the tracksuit bottom, all in the things, like maybe that boy is about 8, 9 years old, running to take the milk back home to their parents and so on. But the way these boys were picking on that boy, I look at that, I say, this is not real. You see, we are the ones who, when we talk about the black devil and all the kind of thing, we are the ones playing out. We talk how we fight. Then we talk about how we fight ourselves, how we kill ourselves, how we do the Africans were doing. You understand? This is what my brother was saying just now, Mao. When in Africa, when those people were fighting the time, we were having what we call the Mao Society. We were having all these different organizations. They were fighting against the white man, right? Until these people come with their divide and rule and set up a way where some of us begin to almost fight ourselves. This doesn't develop originally in Africa in our own way. We were living a vibrant life, a brilliant life. This is how we was coming. Even up till now, Sister Chini, you are in Africa. You see, you must study a little bit of the inhabitants of the land now. How these people move within themselves in Gambia, the way they acknowledge you, the way the heart of the people and everything. All these are the things that are necessary to study and look at people and study people, mankind. Even it's just like when I'm around, the one who wasn't around the African people in the motherland. Like when you talk about the Caribbean, the one in Britain here. I study and I try to come and know certain things. That's why I can say the tradition and the culture have never gone away from the African people, I don't want to use the word black people, African people anymore. It never go away from them. The only thing that went away from them is what the white man steal from them. It makes them don't know their land. It makes them don't want to accept that they are African as well, because it demoralized them, the African continent. And the African continent is the top one who bring every civilization, everything. Not about their AI system now, they want artificial intelligence system they want to bring in order to corrupt us. These things we have done it for long. It's just like one of my brother was saying it and so on. When I was
if you could land on this point, please, my brother, because of time, if you could land on this point, thank you.
All right there. Okay, I can land on it. There used to be a man called Sekou Touré. That Sekou Touré man, we don't used to say, this is somebody who can appear and disappear. African people was a person full of that spirituality, intelligence, which was within them, but they had to know the mathematical side of it in order to work out these things for themselves. But my sister, okay then, I will learn on this part of it, but we just have to know ourselves and accept our African, which is Nubian or ancient Kem. We have to go to that history back. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, what a point to land on. You know, such was the extent of our spiritual intelligence. We could appear and disappear. Oh, my gosh. We're going to have to come back to that, Brother Julius. Okay, let's go over to the next caller on the line. I think, Brother Nenakuti, you came in next, but if I can allow a couple of the callers that haven't spoken as yet, and then I will come back to you. Caller 341. Who's caller 341? New caller to the line. Caller 341, are you there? Okay, when you call in, you need to know. Hey, yes. Who do we have on the line? Welcome.
Mine's a technical report.
Oh, yes. Go ahead, technical.
Yeah, it's your voice level, your volume level is 33% higher than everyone else's.
Okay, thanks for that. Let me bring it down a touch. It needs to be higher, but not that much. Thank you so much for that technical report. I've just reduced it. Hopefully that's much better. Okay, going over to 976. Greetings, caller 976. Who do we have on the line? Caller 976, are you there? Okay, let's go over then to Brother Nenakuti.
Yes, Mahatotep, my sister.
Mahatotep.
Yes. A few points on the clip that Brother Momo played. You know, the first one about the Eurocentrism and Afrocentrism. You know, apparently Afrocentrism is the answer to the Eurocentrism narrative, which was that African people, you know, didn't have any civilization. You know, and ancient Egypt is to do with white people. Now, this is what I'm homing on. Yeah, this is. You have to check the cunningness of white people. Now, check this. They created this schism, yeah, of having an argument to tell Africans that they are nobody. Yeah. So now, the Africans the professors that we had at that time period, I'm talking about around the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s. Yeah. Now they have to create another version, yeah, to challenge this narrative. Yeah. So most of the professors at those times most of them studied underneath Europeans. They even went to European universities to study. Yeah. So then you ask yourself, where did they get most of their information from? Yeah, to counter what the Eurocentrists said. Now the question becomes, most of the information was already written. This is where we have to understand the cunningness of Europeans. Yeah, it was already written, so most of our scholars gravitated towards those information and used it as a tool to counter what the argument they were saying. You see, we have to understand that Europeans are very cunning in the way that they will support the opposite side. Yeah, they do this thing where it's called controlled opposition. Yeah, so the thing that you think is there to help you is actually being controlled by them. You know, it's a narrative thing that they do. It's a social conditioning that they have. It's a mental thing that they do, where you think that you're using a tool to challenge them about your own history, but really not realizing that they wrote 99% of those information that you're using. You see, so when I say to people that we are in a paradigm that was created by Europeans, they don't get it. Yeah, everybody that is yoked in this paradigm, you are operating on information that was given to you by the European. And another point as well with the whole education system in Africa. I mean, recently we had Kamala Harris come to our country, yeah, and the way our president was behaving around her, it was very disappointing. You know, he was acting like a schoolboy. You know, a schoolboy who's about to get cake, who never ate cake before. You know, so he was going around like obedient and his hand was behind his back. I mean, he was acting like a fool. So, I mean, you know, when she leaves, a lot of these people that call themselves intellectuals in Africa, in Ghana, will go back to respect this man, yeah, like he's something. But to the Europeans, he's an idiot. And to be quite frank, most Europeans see African people as stupid. They are very stupid in the mind. That's how they view us when they see us. Yeah, even they themselves are very stupid. They think that we are stupid even more than them. You know, so they created a system that mocks us all the time because we don't know. Like the clip
they think they are running with something that classify themselves different from Egyptology. No, the ancient Africans told the invaders that we are the people, yeah, of Ptah. Ptah means darkness. Yeah, we come from dark. We were conceived in darkness and manifested in the light. Yeah, so they told the Greeks, you go and ask every African specifically who they are, and they will tell you. Diasporans are not doing that. We are not asking the Africans on the continent, who are you? Yeah, that's what we need to be doing. Asking direct questions to the Africans. Who are you? And you will see that they will never come and say that we are Canadians, we are this or we are that or Nubians. They will give you the correct name of who they are, because every African cultural name comes with the language. So this is what we must do as diasporans. We must go to Africa and ask the Africans specifically, who are you? And they will tell us who they are. If they start to tell you that they are Canadians and all that, just know that these people are brainwashed. Yeah? Because I keep telling people, hermetology is 99% Egyptology, because they get all their information from there. It doesn't matter if they wrote the Husia, if they wrote the Cuneiform by day, they are all operating in European paradigm, you know, because they still think that Greek people were just white people. No, we had ancient Africans that spoke Greek. They were the ones that translated all what we know today called Ma'at and all this. It was the Greek-speaking Africans. Most African scholars don't know this. Yeah? So me, that's why I go back to the Greek time, because we had our ancestors that spoke fluent Greek, and they taught the Greek, and they spoke, and they wrote most of the stuff that we today are using. You know? So me, that's why I don't really get on with a lot of scholars that are from the, you know, Afrocentrism, because Afrocentrism is another ploy by Europeans just to keep the arguments going, so we'll all be arguing among ourselves. Ashe.
Okay, Ashe, rise up to you, Brother Nenakuti, for those points. We'll come back to you with some questions on that. I just want to check if 341 is back on the line and wants to speak. Caller 341, or was that the technical report line? 341? Caller 341. Okay. All righty. Those are the calls that we've got so far, Brother Mama, so we can respond to some of the points that's made. I'd like to respond as well, but let me allow you to go first, shall we?
Yes, thank you. So thank you for the call, and thank you for the points that they've made. So I appreciate what Brother Nenakuti is saying. I would like to deal with him first, because it's more fresh to our mind. So look, Afrocentricism is not just a simple counter of Eurocentrism. Yeah, we don't need to talk semantics. My point is this: it's not focused on Kemet. Kemet isn't the only African civilization. Okay. The reason the our ancestors and our learned people focus so much on it, because they understand that Kemet was the pinnacle. Yes, it's the classics, if you want to put it. You always need a basis of something. So when something has been lost, you must look back and say, yes, this place was a civilization for 5,000 years. Yes, even among the Eurocentrics. Yes. They know that's the case. That even the modern invention, writing and stuff like that, engineering, they got it through that way of that. So they're trying to claim it. So what they're saying is that on the simple level is that that's the most well known. It's like, for example, if I'm trying to explain something to an average African today, yes, they understand stories about the Bible. Yes. So if I use that to explain certain things, I can go beyond that. But if they don't even understand what is going on there, I didn't even mention something that they understand. They will not understand anything I'm saying. So my point is this: Afrocentrism is not about rejecting just Eurocentrism, replacing with the opposite or something, or trying to counter arguments about Egyptology, yeah, and saying about Kemet. It's bigger than that. What we're saying is that we must go back to what is African. It's not about 5,000 years. We're talking about hundreds and thousands of years. We must take everything from African culture. If you hated the stuff about Egyptologists or people calling the Kemetas, then that's good for you. Then you focus on West Africa then. Yes? Focus on the culture that is in Mali before the coming of the Arabs. focus on the culture that is Nigeria, yes, no culture, yes. Then in Southern Africa, what we call Tanzania and all the rest and stuff like that, yeah. Focus on the indigenous culture there. Go to their own ways of studies, what works well for them, the medicine that they use, etc. So that's my first point, yes. So Afrocentricism is not a reaction of just Eurocentrism. It's saying that Sankofa returned to African culture, return to Ubuntu, all right? All of that, return to Mahat, etc. And then the second aspect of it then is I would like to talk about I've forgotten the name of the person who called. So they were talking about the history, yeah, and also they talk about the history. So for that, just read something quickly. So Dr. Henry Clark, more than 30 years ago, said in the book, Now Valley Contribution to Civilization, yeah, it's called There Has Been a Deliberate Destruction of African Culture and the Records Relating to the Culture. This destruction started with the first invaders of Africa. It continued through the period of slavery and colonial system. It continues today on a much higher and more dangerous level. They are now attempting on the highest economic level to divide African history and culture with African in such a manner that the best of it can be claimed for Europeans or the very least Asians. This is the main theme of the Afrocentricism. The manipulation of African history has been so thorough that many people now believe Egypt is not in Africa. It goes on and on and on. So my point is that, again, history informs us. There's nothing we're saying today that hasn't come before. They've been trying to steal the history of just why they so focus on Egypt. Because for them, ancient Egypt gave the world civilization before even the Greeks and all the rest. If they can claim that, they can claim heritage to the African culture and they can destroy us, isn't it? So that's it. So again, let's look at things from a historical point of view. That's why I say we must have a narrative. We must have our own things while we're doing so.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Brother Mama. We've got caller 341 trying to join us. Seems to be having some difficulty. Let me see if we've got 341 on the line. And remember, callers, if you've got another call coming in whilst you're waiting on Skype, on the Galaxy FOB Skype, please hang up. Yeah, please hang up because, you know, we don't want to have beeping over everything like we're getting now. So if that's you and you've got another call coming in, please come off the line. Caller 341, are you there? Caller 341, are you there? Okay, I'm going to remove caller 341 from the line. And the beeping has gone. Yeah, so caller 341. Remember, if you've got another call coming in, please do vacate the line. Okay, thank you so much, Brother Marmar, for that response. Very informative, very, great response to some of the points that have been made by Brother Nenakuti and earlier callers. Let me just try and add 341 again to the line. 341, I've just added you. Let me just check if you're there. Caller 341.
Hello?
Ah, yes, you're coming through now. Yes, caller 341. Welcome, welcome. Who do we have on the line?
It's Thomas here.
Oh, Thomas, welcome, Thomas. It's been a little while. How are you doing?
Not too bad.
Good. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
I'm just calling to see if I could get you on. Is that WhatsApp?
You've called through to the live Galaxy FOB Skype number. So you're going out live to the world right now, Brother Thomas.
Oh, I was just testing it, right? But I'll continue to listen.
Okay, absolutely fine. Okay, Thomas, remember to put your phone on mute. And if you have another call coming in, remember to hang up, okay? So that we don't get the beeping.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Alrighty, so I'm just going to respond to some of the points that have been made as well and just reinforce, some of the great contributions that we've already had. So, Eurocentrism versus Afrocentricism. We've been looking at that today within the context of education too. We're saying different ideologies. The Eurocentric ideology, which is preaching white supremacy, black inferiority, and Afrocentricism, which, is diametrically opposed to that and is actually building a response to the Eurocentrist Eurocentric mindset built on African accomplishments and our stolen history and our stolen legacy. And I just want to remind, everyone about the book Stolen Legacy as well, because, everything that Eurocentrism is actually built on is a lie. It is built on stolen African legacy. So I don't really understand the point where, it's been suggested that some of our scholars are using European knowledge because, the Europeans actually stole African knowledge in the first instance. And our brother Nene Kuti said that chematology is 99% Egyptology, but chematology came before Egyptology. So, it should be the other way around, should it not? Egyptology is 99% chematology because chematology actually came first. And whilst I accept all that's been said about, us being conceived in darkness, yes, and, be manifested in the light, that's like looking at the birthing canal and, us being in the womb, the mother's womb, and it's also looking at, our ability, the spiritual side of us, the spiritual ability as well to conceive ideas and thoughts in the dark and in the mind, and then to manifest it in this, in the physical world as well. And so there's, that concept, absolutely agree with that. But, what I don't agree with is the suggestion and the idea that our African scholars who have developed the concept of, Afrocentricism don't have anything to bring to the table using works of European scholars. Who are these European scholars? These are the people that have stolen, our African knowledge, our everything, all of our systems, and have whiteified it. So, and then what you can't hide from as well, and what even they haven't been able to hide away from, is the physical evidence as well of who we are. When I talk about physical evidence, I'm talking about the archaeology, I'm talking about the tombs and the archaeological findings. I'm talking about our great sculptures that our ancestors did. These Europeans that are stealing African ideologies. And even if we talk to modern day Africans, they can't tell me how the pyramids were built. They've also lost the knowledge of who they are. They've also lost the knowledge of their greatness. I'm living amongst Africans, as we speak. My neighbors, people who I interact with on a daily basis, who I go shopping with, who I buy from, and if I ask them who they are, they're firstly going to identify themselves with their religion, because the brainwashing, is so extensive and so deeply entrenched here. Also, it's, a fallacy in our mind to think that we haven't been affected by Eurocentrism. It's the ambition of most Africans here is to go and get themselves an education. And that education is a Eurocentric education, which is where the brainwashing is going on. And then spiritually, our minds have been captured as well, because this is a country where I am, where it's like over 80% Muslim. They pray 5 times a day. Their circumstances and their condition haven't changed in, hundreds of years, but they're still praying to a mythical Arab god and still looking to the Arab world as their saviors, So, we can't talk to the Africans today and think that they are going to bring the knowledge and enlightenment that we need and that we're searching for to remind us of how great we were prior to colonialism, enslavement, and everything else that has contained us and our greatness. And so, I believe also that in addition to the scholarly works that is being done to uncover that which has been covered up, to rediscover that which has been hidden from us, to blackwash that what has been whitewashed, in addition to all of that fantastic scholarly work that's going on there, as I said, we have the hardcore evidence, the hardcore artifacts all over the world, the pyramids all over the world, the great monuments that our people built all over the world, India, China, Angola, everywhere, that just Brazil, everywhere in the Americas, to remind us of our greatness and who we were. As our brother reminded us when he called in, Brother Nene Bonsu reminded us when he called in earlier today, they don't know how we moved these hundreds of tons of stones. Even in Europe, we were there moving tons, stones that weighed tons and tons over rivers and valleys and mountains. You know, we would have to have levitated and known how to levitate stone and how to work with the stones. And this is why, you know, it's so important for us to work with nature, because our ancestors studied nature to the point where they understood the value of the stones, the minerals, and its properties and what it could do. That's why we were able to make and build all of these wonderful monuments. That's why we were able to smelt certain metals and turn it into finished, wonderful, fine, artistic finished goods, because, you know, these metals that we were using in order to do that had to be combined with other metals. So we understood the science and the consistency of the various metals. There are metals that we knew, you know, that its composition was so light that it could take a spaceship to the moon. It's not all metals that you could use to lift a metal, you know, and to allow a metal to elevate. But we knew which metals to use. We knew the composition of brass and tin and gold and coppers and all the other metals. We knew the combinations and the consistencies and the levels that we needed to use in order to bring about, you know, finished goods and to make the use of it. You know, today our people have got the minerals, but do they know how to mine it and to produce, you know, the finished goods? And even if they are producing finished goods from the use of the metals, it's limited to what our Eurocentric people have miseducated us into believing that it can be used for. So when we get these great breakthroughs from these great minds like the brother in Zimbabwe, you know, who built the helicopters and the TVs and the cars, etc., that run off of another level of energy that science doesn't teach us about. They're the Africans that we need to talk to. They're the ones who have somehow managed to capture, you know, an aspect from our former greatness from within their DNA. These are the Africans that we need to be talking to. You know, the geniuses who probably didn't go through the Eurocentric education and therefore wasn't taught that they can't do. So Afrocentrism is, you know, a response, as our brother Mama was saying, to Eurocentrism and an opportunity for us to Sankofa, to go back and to reclaim all that has been lost to us as Africans. So what we're talking about with Afrocentrism is another word that I would use here is a renaissance. We've had it before. We had it during, you know, the time of the Moors when they built when they rebuilt Europe, you know, brought enlightenment to Europe. It was, you know, called the Renaissance. We need a new Renaissance. The direction of travel that we're going with Eurocentrism is collapsing anyway. It's not working. And so we need a reawakening, a reawakening of our former greatness, of our former great powers. We need to re-understand how we built the pyramids, how we were able to put stones that weighed hundreds of tons on top of each other. You go around Zimbabwe and you will see stones, you know, that have been put together like a child will put stones on top of one another. But these are huge boulders, you know, that have been precariously put on top of one another, look as though they're going to topple over, but have been standing like that for hundreds of years, possibly thousands of years. Such was the level of science and knowledge that we had about the stones and the positioning of them and the weighting of them and building foundations, you know, which is key. Because a lot of what we built, you know, it was the foundations that were so critically important in terms of the science and the mathematics and everything, in order for everything to stand and continue to stand until today. So Afrocentricism, as the answer to some extent, in reawakening our greatness, I think it has a long way to go. And if we incorporate, you know, chematology and everything else within, you know, Afrocentricism, I think that it could be the making of our greatness. Okay, time is running and passing. We are 6 minutes away from the top of the hour. Oh, I've clicked the wrong button there. Brother Geb has come through and I've lost everybody else. We're 5 minutes away from the top of the hour. We have our brother Icon who's coming up afterwards. My apologies to the callers that I've cut off. Please do ring back. Brother Geb, you've got 1, possibly 2 minutes.
Sis, and I don't need 1 or 2 minutes. I just called the nail right on the head. You know,
we lost you a second there. Repeat, please.
Can you hear me, sis?
Yeah, hearing you now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just called to say that you hit the nail correctly square on the head. You know, Afrocentrism is not a rebuttal or a response to them. Afrocentrism is a return to us, right? It's a very Sankofa that brother mentioned, and if people are seeing it as a rebuttal to Eurocentrism, then they misunderstand what this Afrocentric mindset is. It's a return to who we are. It's the very thing that I speak about when I say we must reconstruct everything they have deconstructed, right? So I trust that, and I'm hoping Brother Nanakuti is listening, because, you know, if we see it in his framework, then we will miss this important set of work. And, you know, Diop is probably, you know, the person that we should look to when we begin to think about Afrocentrism. He doesn't rebut Europeans. He's bringing our own framework as well as Chenwuzu. You know, so it's how we view this is what's important. To his point, Nina Lances, to his point, it is important that when we are trying to rebut their systems, that we don't look for one of them, or we don't look in their writings for the rebuttal. And the reason why I say this, we've got scholars out there that will show that that lie, the Bible, the Old Testament was the original text, and then they wrote the New Testament to support the Old Testament. So it's important that we don't look at their writings, because we'll get completely lost and confused. I'll land there, sister.
Thank you so much. You know, we are out of time. I want to thank all the callers who have called in. You know, as you know, these are a series of discussions, and so we will have an opportunity next strong. I struggled to get up this morning. Oh, there was a mosquito in the room and it kept me up for hours from 2 o'clock through to 4 o'clock this morning. And by the time I went back to sleep, when I wake up, it was like 20 past 7 our time, which is like, you know, 20 past 8 your time. And I'm due to start at 9 o'clock, like within 40 minutes. I had to rush and put everything together, and I'm like, I don't think I can continue with this 9 o'clock start. But my, what a conversation and discussion we've been having. And even though it's been a marathon of a show, it's still not enough time. So I want to thank all the callers that have called in. I want to thank my special guest, Brother Mama. Brother Mama, we look forward to you rejoining us again next strong. As always, thank you so much, my brother. Apologies that we ain't got time to go back to you now. Brother Geb, who's just called in, Brother Nenakuti, Brother Julius, all the callers, you know, Brother Nana Bonsu, Dr. Abu, you know, Brother Sean, all the callers that call in today to make today's show what it is. I thank you so much. It's been a phenomenal discussion, and thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. And on the new Bibi Tumi site, I will try and start putting up some of the works that we've been doing here on the Big G Galaxy Afui. So Sister Shanice out of here. I will be back on Saturday, all being well, from 10 a.m. UK time, 9 p.m. GMT time. Look forward to your participation and conversations in the discussions on that show. Sister Shanice out of here for now, leaving you with the track from Spragga Benz, Vaccinated.
Yeah. Like I eat at them wanted people for.